So, and those sorts of things turn off people from the conversation. And I'm not just talking about feminists, I'm talking about any woman. And that's what fueled some of the discourse in the primaries, as well as the general election about these Pumas, so-called Pumas. I don't even know exactly where they are. But I'm actually going to see some of them at the National Now Conference next month. Apparently they are coming, and they are going to try and take over the organization. As they also, I believe, the only person of color on this panel. And looking at this room, we need to talk about who's not here, who's not conversing, who's not on this panel, who's not in our audience, and who's not going to listen to this voice, who's not going to be hearing my voice right now, who's not going to be hearing all of these wonderful things that's been said. So you have to have us at the table, we have to be in the audience, think about the venues, the messengers, the content, low power radio, ethnic newspapers. It's not just about the blogs and the internet, even though I'm absolutely obsessed with social media. I've been blogging since 2000, late 2000, so I'm an early adopter. And my current blog's been up since July 2007. My first blog was, one of those personal blogs, but that eventually morphed into something else, and I decided to start all over in 2007. But we're talking about how to get our voices heard. We also have to talk about who's listening to us and who we're reaching. It doesn't matter how brilliant the things that we're going to say up here if nobody's listening, or if the same people are listening. But I want to also jump on something that Ed said about engaging locally. I love the idea of these salons. I hope that we have some more. Matt was talking about doing some more things, and just try and get us together so we can have this conversation, we have community, so that we're ready. We're ready for the next thing. We're ready, we're planning, we're engaging, we're thinking, and we're ready. Because I was just talking with a bunch of friends the other day about the special election in the 5th district. And I personally really thought that Tom Gagan was going to not so much win, but was really going to pull something pretty close. And he ended up 7th. That was really sad. I don't live in the 5th. I used to live in the 5th, though, for a really long time. But we were really talking about how the idea that he had, he had Captain Pollock, he had the Nation, he had all these great big names and everything else, but what did he have in the community? He was running against people who were in the machine, who have alternate machines, who call themselves progressives but aren't really progressives. People didn't even try and call themselves progressives, but they were pretty good on the issues. But they had been there. They weren't just coming in. It was a really fast, quick election. It was an election that even I was like, wow, this is going to be so fast. Who knows how, you're going to be able to win with like 200 votes. I might jump in, like, hey, come on, I can get 200 people to vote for me. But, it really proved that somebody like Tom Gagan, who is an awesome guy, is amazing. He would be an amazing congressman from Chicago. Yeah. But he couldn't pull it out because he didn't have the ground troops. He didn't have that local connection. And so hopefully with these salons, we can have that local connection. And somebody in the audience who wants to run already has. We're already building that groundswell. And one of the other things I want to talk about is bring to this conversation about finding our voice and amplifying it is finding common ground. And not so much finding those places that we meet, but figuring out how all of our issues interconnect. As a feminist, my feminism is interconnected with almost every issue. I have gone to the mat for the idea that peace is a feminist issue, that our high incarceration rate in this country is a feminist issue, that green living, environmental issues is a feminist issue, immigration is a feminist issue, and I've gone to the mat with some really hardcore feminists who are like, no, feminist issues are these tiny little things. No, they're not. And we have to see how everyone else's issues are interconnected. Because when we don't, we end up ranking them, and then we're like, you know, Veronica, I love your issue, but right now your issue has to wait. We need to work on this. As opposed to, I see how that's connected, but right now, we're working on stimulus. But let's see how, you know, it's a different way of talking to people, as opposed to saying your issue doesn't matter right now, or it's not important, it's not progressive, it's not feminist. In terms of pressuring Obama, I'd like to point out that the stimulus package, when it was first initiated, it was all about, you know, shovel ready, we're building things, fixing things, and grr, and we're going to put men back in, you know, construction jobs and all of that. But enough women got together and talked to him about the fact that your stimulus package really is going to just target mostly men's jobs. And it ended up getting money for social workers, teachers, all those sorts of things who were the beneficiaries of it. So that was one amazing thing. And that goes back again to who we're talking to, who's our audience. You know, and Obama has appointed or nominated the most women of color by the administration. So we have to keep that in mind. Those are the people we're going to be having those meetings with. And the other thing, another point of trying to find common ground is that I'm a feminist, I'm a mom, and I'm a blogger. And I try to find that connection, and I try to find that connection because I try to talk to mom bloggers, and they're like, oh, a lot of them are, not all of them are like, well, I'm not really political, blah, blah, blah. But when you start talking to them about some things, you find out that their life is so political. They're totally political. They start complaining about their schools, the drinking water, they're worried about health care, all of those sorts of things. And instead of meeting a mom and saying, oh, well, she's not political, so I'll just talk about non-political things with her, just try to keep engaging. And so if we're going to try and amplify our voices, we have to keep trying to engage and pushing people until they realize that the shit they're worried about, the stuff that's keeping them up at night, really is very political. And sometimes very feminist. And one of the things that happened this past week is that, and I say this because there are feminist mom bloggers out there, like Pundit Mom, who's a good friend of mine, and we just had a total, the Nation actually printed an article about the disconnect between feminist bloggers and mom bloggers, and her and a bunch of other feminist mom bloggers totally took that to offense. But I say that because mom bloggers have a stereotype of being only influential when it comes to the marketplace. What kind of things we're buying, what kind of things we're eating, what kind of things we're reviewing on our blogs. And actually, we're very political beings. Some of us are very overtly political, like myself and Pundit Mom, and some of us need a little more nurturing, a little more conversation. So we're thinking about new places to talk to, new people to talk to, don't write off the mom bloggers, because they're pretty fucking radical when the shit hits the fan. And then lastly, I just want to say that as we continue to talk about holding other people's feet to the fire, like Obama, like Geithner, like Sumner, Clinton, everybody else, we should not be surprised when people hold our own feet to the fire, like this panel. As I said, I'm going to wrap it up by bringing it back to the fact that this room, this panel, is not filled with the people that we should really be talking about. That is not representative of everyone we should be talking to and hearing from.
Everybody.